In my video on bad hiking advice I've heard, I mentioned norovirus briefly and the importance of treating water. One thing every YouTube creator learns is that the message we think we're sending and the message that is actually received may be entirely different. One commenter pointed out quite rightly that casual viewers may take treating to simply mean filtering, and that's not effective against viruses. And contaminated water is not the only source of norovirus infection, and not even the primary source. Today I'm going to correct that transmission error. The norovirus concern applies both to backpackers and day hikers who go through popular areas where others have been and touch the same surfaces that others have touched. Norovirus is extremely contagious and causes vomiting, diarrhea, nausea, and cramps, usually for 1 to 3 days. It's miserable but rarely dangerous for healthy adults. For older hikers, it can hit harder because dehydration is a more serious issue for us now than when we were younger. Norovirus is incredibly small, roughly 30 nanometers in diameter, much smaller, for example, than cryptosporidium or giardia. That's the key to understanding why your water filter does not protect you against norovirus. It's easy to get lost in units like nanometers and microns, so here's a diagram of a typical water filter pore, a purifier pore, a norovirus, and a cryptosporidium. Standard filters, your Sawyer, Platypus, Katydine, for example, have pores around 0.2 to 0.3 microns. That's small enough to work for bacteria. A micron is 1,000 nanometers, so even at 0.2 microns, 200 nanometers, those pores are still several times larger than a norovirus particle. Viruses pass right through. Your filter's doing its job. Its job just doesn't include norovirus. Cryptosporidium, though smaller than giardia, for example, is still vastly larger and easily filtered out. A purifier is different. Purifiers have much smaller pore sizes, around 20 nanometers. No manufacturing process produces perfectly uniform pores, however. There's always some variation around that 20 nanometers. Some pores will be slightly larger than others. That's where the additional capture mechanisms such as electrostatic attraction and the circuitous path that water takes through the membrane, it picks up the slack. It's why the EPA specifies actual virus reduction performance and require removal of 99.99% of the viruses by purifiers. If you want an all-in-one solution that handles bacteria, protozoa, and viruses in a single pass, a purifier is worth a look. It's heavier and more expensive than a basic hollow fiber filter, but compared to carrying a filter plus a UV sterilizer or chemical tablets, the weight difference may be reasonable, especially in group settings. The next time I replace my filter system, I may just get one. A standard filter achieves 0% removal of viruses. You can use a UV sterilizer like a SteriPen. It works differently than a filter. It doesn't remove anything. The virus particles are still there after treatment. UV light scrambles the virus's genetic material so they can no longer replicate. Those damaged particles are still in the water, but they can't multiply to overwhelm your system and make you sick. With no replication, infection is rarer. UV treatment depends on the light reaching the virus particles. That requires reasonably clear water. In murky water, particles shield viruses from the UV light and compromise the treatment. The solution is straightforward. Just run the water through your regular filter first. That clears some sediment and handles bacteria and protozoa. Then follow up with the SteriPen on the clearer water, allowing each tool to do what it does best. The filter retains residual water, so handle it accordingly. It could be infected. The third option for virus treatment is chlorine dioxide. It's available as tablets or as a A-B mix. Chlorine dioxide is effective against norovirus, which puts it ahead of standard filtration, and it works in turbid water where a SteriPen struggles, giving it a practical advantage. The main trade-off is time. Chlorine dioxide needs adequate contact time to do its job, typically 30 minutes in clear water and up to 4 hours in very cold or turbid water. It works best with advanced planning rather than treating water on demand. Regular chlorine or iodine tablets are unreliable against norovirus. Chlorine dioxide is a chemically distinct compound, and that matters. If you're carrying chemical treatment specifically as a norovirus backstop, be sure it's chlorine dioxide. Contaminated water is a real but relatively manageable vector for infection if you do more than filter. Where norovirus really moves on the trail is person-to-person and person-to-surface contact. Norovirus spreads when virus particles from an infected hiker reach another hiker. That can happen through direct contact or through touching a surface that an infected hiker touched. Inevitably, the newly infected person ends up touching their face or eating with infected hands. You could have it and spread it without knowing it. An infected person can shed the virus before feeling sick, and for weeks after they feel better. Some of the highest risk objects are ones hikers touch constantly without thinking about them. Trail registers could be the most contaminated object you'll encounter. The same pen, the same pages, touched by dozens of hands. The simple habit of carrying your own pen eliminates one touch point entirely, though it doesn't protect you from the pages themselves. Hanging pegs and shelters, outhouse handles, pump handles, picnic table surfaces, and bear box latches are also common transmission points. Shared cookware is a real risk in group hiking settings. There's the community pot, but there's also someone handling your cup or spoon to pass it to you. To make matters worse, norovirus particles can survive for days to weeks, depending on the nature of the surface. They're also stable at low temperatures. You can get infected by someone you'll never meet and you'll never see. You may have heard that fist bumping instead of shaking hands reduces transmission risk. That's somewhat true. There's less surface contact. But if you fist bump a contaminated hand and then eat your trail mix 20 minutes later without cleaning your hands, there's still a risk. The intervention that matters is not the greeting, it's what you do between the greeting and your next meal. With all these potential contaminated surfaces, you might feel overwhelmed. It's not possible to clean all those surfaces, which brings us to hand hygiene. Here, the common answer, hand sanitizer, is not quite good enough. Norovirus is a non-enveloped virus. Without getting into the science, what matters to us is that alcohol-based hand sanitizers are much less effective against them than they are against bacteria or enveloped viruses like the flu. Sanitizer is better than nothing, but it's not the killer that it is against many other pathogens. Physical removal is more effective. Washing with soap and water, or even vigorous friction with water alone, can remove virus particles from your hands. Even if the water isn't perfectly sterile, washing with soap and running water removes more virus than it adds. Infection is about dose, and hand washing lowers that dose dramatically. A small bottle of biodegradable soap used at least 200 feet from any water source is worth carrying specifically for pre-meal hand cleaning. Collecting water upstream from potential contamination sources like latrines also helps. When soap and water aren't available, sanitizer plus mechanical rubbing working into every surface of your hands is your best option. A few more habits worth cultivating. Develop a clean hand habit, keeping one hand cleaner than the other. One hand touches surfaces, latches, registers, other people's gear. The other hand handles food and touches your face. It sounds fussy, but it can become second nature. If possible, use your foot to open privy doors if the structure allows it. When in a privy, keep your clean hand isolated as much as possible, like in a coat pocket. Don't set your fork or spoon on the table. Don't let your food bag sit on the shelter floor. Small habits add up. Norovirus on the trail is a real risk. Contaminated water is one way to encounter it, and treating your water, not just filtering, addresses that vector. But the bigger picture is that norovirus spreads primarily through human contact and contaminated surfaces. The habits that protect you there have nothing to do with your water treatment and everything to do with what happens between your hands and your mouth. In the norovirus lottery, you're buying a ticket every time you touch a shared surface, shake a hand, or eat without cleaning first. The goal isn't to live in fear of other hikers in every campsite, it's to have habits that reduce your risk. If you appreciate this content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment on this or other topics you'd like me to cover. And if you haven't seen this video yet, please take a look at it now. Thanks for watching.